Buongiorno e benvenuti a tutti a Brooklands, Italian Car Day. Oggi celebriamo il nuovo, il vecchio, lo storico, lo sportivo e il classico. Speriamo che tutti voi vedete molte macchine interessanti e trovate cose che vi piacciono a Brooklands.
Hello, my name's Paul Gregory. This is an 8C 2300 and it was made in 1933, originally a long chassis car. It lost its body in America and then subsequently was hot rodded and was raced until the 1950s. The car was then restored back to original 8C spec during the early 2000s. I've owned it for about 7 years now and it's been on the road for 4 years. And it's one of the best road cars that I've ever driven. It's a spectacular car, it's very quick, and it's got the most wonderful exhaust note. I love it, it's my favourite. The first owner actually lived in London, was an Italian diplomat, and then the car was shipped in 1937 to Missouri. It was shipped to the West Coast and desert raced. The engine went pop, and then somebody fitted a Mercury V8 in it. That went pop, and they fitted a Cadillac V8, and as I said, it continued to be raced. It disappeared into a shed in Tucson in Arizona in 1952 and was dug out by a guy in 2000 who wanted to restore it. Very sadly, he was murdered, and I was fortunate enough to be able to take over the restoration project. And the car went back on the road in 2014, and I've done nearly 20,000 miles in it already, so I'm really enjoying it on the road. Doing long distance rallying, and it's just a great road car.
Hi, my name's Matthew Hodges and this is my Alfa Romeo GTV 2000, and I've had it 4.5 years, and I actually bought it in Singapore. It was sold in Malaysia in 1973, in Ipoh in Malaysia, and bought by a Malaysian family who then moved to Singapore, so I'm only the second owner, and I bought it from them when it had been registered as a vintage car in Singapore, and it could only be used on 28 days in a given year. And I brought it back to the UK and registered it in 2016. So it's got aircon and no heater, so it's a bit chilly to drive on anything other than a summer's day. And other than that, it's got extra fans in it for the hot weather in Singapore, so it never ever overheats because it's got a big radiator and 2 electric fans. But other than that, it's pretty much standard, and I love it. It's always starts, it's reliable, and it's just great fun to drive.
My name is Lynn. This is our car, and we've owned her since 1977, and it was the only car we had at the time, and I used it every day to go shopping, and I worked in a pub on a Friday night, and she would always be parked in the car park there, and the public seemed to think that it was a job that wasn't worthy of a Lamborghini, and I didn't think too much about it at the time. Take my kids to school in it every day, and we used it continuously until 1985. The exhaust pipes went and we couldn't get replacements, so we had to take it off the road, and basically she just sat and rotted from that time on until 2004 when I started the restoration. And I'll take you and show you some of the amazing bits of it. It's a bit of a mess on the inside, but the interior has been completely rebuilt by the man called Bruno Paratelli, whose company made it in the first place in the 70s. He was responsible for the Countach, the Miura and the Espada interiors. And Valentino Balboni introduced me to Bruno, and he completely remade everything exactly as it was when it first went on the road. It has a 4-litre engine with 6 carburetors that I don't know an awful lot about. I know what the left foot's for. But again, the engine has been completely restored, and it's featured in several magazines in the last 5 years. And lots of people have been coming up to me today to say thank you for bringing. It is a proper four-seater car, although it's full of rubbish at the moment. As you can see, the boot is full of jacket, seats and a table. A picnic so we can sit and make tea. We bought it in '77, so we were the second owners. The mileage on it is still less than 60,000. We've just done a tour of the Isle of Man, so that was 700 miles. We took it to Italy last year, and for the 50th anniversary of the Islero and the Espada. I don't know too much about the mileage, other than that I just drive it.
Yeah, my name's Simon Hudson. The car is a Lamborghini Diablo GT. It was made in 1999, one of 80. At the time, it was the fastest production car that you could buy. I've owned the car now for 15 years. It's lovely, it's great.
Miller. This is a Ferrari 812 Superfast. I waited 2.5 years for it to arrive. Arrived about 2 months ago. It's called an 812 because it's 800 horsepower V12, 0 to 60 in just under 3 seconds, 200 and something miles an hour, and it's a lovely car, very high tech. It's got 4-wheel steer, it's got electric power steering now, and it has optional gold wheels, the best bit. It's metallic Rosso Corsa, which is, I think they call it a technical term, costa lotta option, because it costs a lot. And that's about it, really.
Hi there, my name's Paul. I bought this a couple of years ago. I bought it in a dark garage with the tyres flat. Didn't hear it running, so it was a huge gamble buying a Lancia, which are predominantly rusty to start with. But it wasn't too bad. I had to fix a few rust spots. I had the bonnet wrapped to make it look like the Monte Carlo, although it is only a 1300 car. Unlike the ones on the side, which are 1600, it drives really well and possibly the most fun car I've ever owned. The previous owner had had it 4 years. He'd spent a huge amount of money on it, left it in his parents' garage, and they just wanted it out. So I bought it off of eBay for not a bad price, and it's been a great little car. So it's a totally standard 1300. Nothing's been changed in it. The master cylinder has been reconditioned. The carburetors have been recently tuned, and it now produces nearly the same amount of brake horsepower as what it should have done when it was new, which is pretty amazing, which is 88 brake horsepower. A little 1300 V4, very unusual engine, which is laying on its side.
Hi, I'm Richard Hodson. This is my Napier Sport Corsa, which is a replica Stratos based on largely Alfa 164 V6 saloon parts, with lots of custom parts as well. It's actually a tubular steel chassis, custom made for the job, and designed to handle as much, generally like the original, but with some more modern suspension compared to the original. So they called this the Super Stratos, to try and make it a more modern take on the Stratos theme, but a good tribute to the Stratos. I've had it for 10 years. The colouring is from the San Remo 1980 Rally, but it is a rather nice blue and yellow colour. The engine is the Busso Alpha V6 3-litre 12 valve, which gives it a 60-degree V6, which makes it sound just like the Ferrari Dino, or very much like the Ferrari Dino that was originally in the Stratos. It's from 1989, so it's fuel injected, unlike the original Dino, which makes it a little easier to look after and a bit more reliable. The body type is a Group 4 square arch. You don't actually realise quite what the different body types are until you own one. There's all sorts of variations on how they were built. Part of what I got it was for tinkering with. Most of the everyday maintenance I get a garage to do, partly because that way I get a good mechanic to look over it and make sure that everything's good, not just my eyes. Things like I just replaced the washer bottle in it because the washer bottle had gone. So something like that, that's tinkering, I'll do that. That's part of the hobby, as well as coming to shows like this and having fun displaying it.
Good afternoon, it's a Fiat Abarth OT1000 Coupe, 1966. I've owned it since about 2007. It went through about 2 years of bodywork restoration and a few other alterations and things like that to make it entertaining. It's about 1000cc. It's got the very interesting stance at the back with the rear suspension to keep the back end going where it should do. Gets rid of the standard 850 tail lift scenario, so that keeps it running nicely. It's great fun to drive. It's basically really entertaining. It's not wonderfully great on motorways, but in 1966, I don't know how many motorways there were. I think the M1 was started about the same sort of time as that, so it wasn't really designed for motorways, let alone we're not in Italy. So Italians were designing cars for their roads, and we were a slightly different scenario in England with the M1 starting at some point during that period. But it's good fun, entertaining, and best of all, it makes people smile as well.
Well, we're here with Julian Pennell in front of this. I think it's best that you explain this machine to me.
It's a Furvis Ranger, and it's built by Ferrari Vehicle Speciale. And if you've got the first letters of each word, it's F-E-R-V-E-S. So it's a Furvis.
Why? Okay.
So it's in fact a Ferrari.
Yeah, okay.
Very loosely.
Loosely so.
I went out in one before you were born.
I doubt it.
Because
You're very good. Thank
I
you.
was buying an Abarth Coupe, God bless it, in the 60s,
Right.
and the garage had one. This was in the days of beach buggies,
Right. Okay.
and they imported one just to see if it would sell, and that was there at the time. And the owner said, "Have you ever been out in a Fur Ranger?" And I said, "I've never even heard of one." So he said, "Well, I'm going to post a letter if we ever get stopped. No comprende, because it's not taxed and insured." But we went down there, and I was so overcome with the manoeuvrability of it. It's amazing, because I can brake on it independently on the back wheels and spin it in 6 foot. And it's you can imagine with the Italian fire service, which used to use them, you've got pumps at the back and you're going up alleyways where you can't do it with a fire engine. But
So mechanically, what's it based on, or is it all individual?
Fiat 500 completely standard engine, and Fiat 600 suspension. And it's raised up because it was built as an off-roader. I'm just under 40 miles an hour when I get going, you know. And I remember I went to one show and I'm standing next to a McLaren, and I said, what do you got under the bonnet? What is it? And he said, about 700 brake horsepower. And I said, jolly good, I've got 18 when I get going. And who looks at his? You know, nothing. You know.
One to a penny, those things. So, but thank you for bringing it along today. Pleasure to meet you, and enjoy your day. Thank you very much.
Thank you for suffering me.
That's all right. Okay, thank you.